Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we're in a little bit of a different setting here. I thought, why not try something new? So today we are talking about the petrodollar. The petrodollar, why you should know about this, why this is going to be a disastrous thing for all Western economies, especially Canada. So without further ado, guys, let's do this. Alright guys, so this is something that you're probably not going to hear about on the news until sometime later this year or next year. And it is basically the petrodollar and how it is quickly collapsing. And let's just explain a little bit of what the petrodollar is, and then we'll get into what exactly is going on. So the petrodollar is essentially all oil has been traded in US dollars since agreements were signed way back. So basically all oil, you may or may not know this, is traded in US dollars, and you probably wonder why that is, and it's because there's agreements with all different countries about that, but that is changing now. And basically to get those agreements signed, the US had to get the Saudis on board, and to do that they offered them protections, military protections, and they offered that they would sell them equipment, they would sell them military equipment, they would sell them weapons, whatever they needed. And that's pretty much what Western countries have been doing for the past couple of decades now. And if you've been wondering how these wars in Central Africa get funded, how they get their hands on American weapons, well, this is exactly how, because the Saudis will essentially sell to the highest bidder, and it's been a big problem. But anyway, that's a different story. So the petrodollar is collapsing because basically the Saudis have just done a deal with Russia and China that is going to pave the way for the collapse of the petrodollar. You see, what a lot of people don't realize is the US dollar as a reserve currency has been going down for the past like 3 decades now. And because it's been going down for so long, that just means it's getting weaker and weaker as a reserve currency. And that speeds up every time there's a disaster where the US just prints loads of money. And that's essentially because Russia and the Saudis, they don't want to pay for the devaluation of the US dollars that they hold in reserve. And if you look at some of the top countries that hold US dollars in reserve, China is number one. China holds the most US dollars in reserve. They literally have the US in a chokehold for about 1 million different reasons right now. Having the most US dollars in reserve is one of them. The US just isn't in a good place to negotiate anymore. They have been running massive, monstrous deficits for decades and decades, and that is why Russia and China and India and all these other nations have been getting together, and they're trying to decide how they can trade without US dollars. They don't want to hold them in reserves anymore. And that's exactly what happened. It's only yesterday that it was found out that Russia is now going to buy jet fuel from China in the yuan. And this is not the US dollar, and this is the start, the undoing. And it's been going on for quite a while, guys, to be honest. They've been trading more and more in the yuan instead of the US dollar. And that's just been happening for a long time. So what does this mean? Because the US dollar, essentially, to allow the government to run at such high deficits, the US dollar is a reserve currency. And we have 2 things happening right now, which are crazy big catalysts that people just are not anticipating. And that is, number one, the reserve currency factor, that it's dwindling and that everyone is moving away from the US dollar. And then the number 2 thing, which you might have worked out, is crypto. Now, countries like El Salvador have announced that they're using cryptocurrency as a main currency, and there's a great Vice documentary that you should watch about that. And you can actually see in El Salvador how they're using Bitcoin now. People are using it to save money and stuff. But the thing is, El Salvador used US dollars as the main currency in their country before Bitcoin. And there are a lot of other countries that are likely going to follow suit once Bitcoin's price kind of stabilizes. You're going to see more and more countries turning to cryptocurrency. It might not even be Bitcoin, but it might be other cryptocurrencies as well. And this all begs the question, what is the future for the US dollar? And it does not look bright. And it hasn't looked bright for the past 20 years, guys. This is not something new that has just suddenly come about. It's been happening for a long time. And what does this mean for Canada? Because I'm sure as hell that's why you're probably here. So for Canada, basically, if the US doesn't get its act together, which it won't, it cannot control its excessive spending and its massive deficits and all the debt that it has, the US could see a hyperinflation type scenario. And if that were to happen, then that would mean Canada would experience a similar thing, because a lot of the goods from the US are coming to Canada, and a lot of the goods imported through the US are coming to Canada. We get a lot of our food from the US. So it's a real big problem for Canada, because Canada relies on the US so much. Now, it doesn't take a genius to work out all these different things, and you should really go and do some research on it. I really would encourage you to do it, because it's a big thing that's gonna happen, and it's happening way quicker now than people anticipated. Since the pandemic and the Federal Reserve running the money printer like there's no tomorrow, this has just sped this thing up so quickly, it's almost gone into hyperspeed. Like the fact that Russia is now buying jet fuel off China in the yuan is the start, because, you know, jet fuel is like an oil-based product at the end of the day. So they're already starting doing this. And these deals, they're coming out right now. Like Russia flew Putin to Nigeria to sign another deal, because Nigeria is another huge oil provider in the world. So these countries, they are not stopping what they're doing. They are creating their own alliance. And you have to remember, Russia, China, they're two of the biggest superpowers in the world. You really have to think about that, what that means, because they are forming an alliance outside all these things like the G20 or whatever, and this is going to be a huge thing going forward. All right, guys, so if you enjoyed this video, just put your mouse over the little logo wherever it is in the bottom left or right hand corner of the screen and hit subscribe. It really helps out the channel. You don't have to, but if you want. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching from 4 a.m. here in Calgary. I will see you in the next video. Take care. Peace and love as always. Bye-bye.